At 30,000 feet above ground, first-class passengers gasped, not because of turbulence, but because an 8-year-old boy had just stood up and quoted federal law to defend his crying little sister. "No passenger shall be discriminated based on social class," he said, holding up a small notebook labeled Justice Book. The cabin fell silent. What no one knew was that this quiet boy and his timid sister weren't just random kids with scholarship tickets. They carried a family legacy that once brought an airline to its knees. This flight wasn't just about travel. It was about history repeating itself and a storm about to unfold. We boarded the plane with quiet excitement, trying to keep things simple, normal, unremarkable. My mom clutched her worn leather purse like it held the last of our dignity. Ellie, my 6-year-old sister, skipped slightly as she walked, her pigtails bouncing, clutching her drawing pad and a stuffed rabbit that had lost one ear years ago. I kept my Justice Book close, zipped inside my backpack. I never traveled without it. Mom had told us to speak politely, sit up straight, and avoid drawing attention. "We're just another family flying first class," she whispered as we stepped into the sleek cabin. Nothing unusual. But we all knew it wasn't true. First class was already half full. Men in tailored suits, women with designer scarves, the scent of expensive perfume and fresh espresso filling the air. Heads turned, eyes lingered. One woman's lips curled slightly as she adjusted her oversized sunglasses. No one said anything, but the air shifted. Our seats were 2A, B, and C. Plush leather, extra legroom, a world away from the cramped coach cabins we used to know. Ellie hopped into her seat, marveling at the buttons on the armrest. I helped her buckle up as Mom stowed our single carry-on bag. Just as I sat down, a sharp voice sliced through the polite hush. "Oh, how adorable," said a woman across the aisle, her tone dripping with sugar and something else entirely. "Scholarship seats, perhaps?" She didn't smile. She didn't have to. Her name tag read Karen Whitmore, her pearls too perfect to be fake. Beside her sat a man I assumed was her husband, his expression vacant, buried in a tablet. Before Mom could respond, a flight attendant with a stiff bun and practiced grin approached. Her name tag read Heather. She glanced at our boarding passes, then at us, and the smile faded just slightly. "I'm sorry," she said, voice tight. "These are first-class seats. Are you sure you're in the right cabin?" Mom's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Yes, we are. 2A to C." Heather paused. "Oh, well, if you received complimentary upgrades or were gifted these seats, we just need to confirm." She said the word gifted like it had dirt on it. Heat crept up my neck. Ellie looked confused. I felt her small fingers grab my hand under the armrest. Karen let out a soft chuckle. "Don't worry, Heather. I'm sure the Foundation did their due diligence." It was the first jab. I knew there'd be more. But what they didn't know was this. We'd been here before. Different city, different airline, but always the same game. And this time, we were ready. While Ellie leaned against the window, tracing clouds with her finger, I unzipped the front pocket of my backpack and pulled out my black notebook. The cover was plain, worn and creased, but inside it was anything but ordinary. In gold marker on the inside flap, I'd written 2 words: Justice Book. Each page was organized by topic: airline regulations, passenger rights, ADA compliance, public school policies, and more. I used highlighters to categorize them: yellow for quotes from federal codes, blue for court precedents, red for real-life cases Mom had told me about. The tabs were color-coded, the handwriting neat. Some pages even had footnotes. I wasn't sure if anyone else my age kept a legal reference guide next to their Pokemon cards. But I wasn't like most kids. Karen and Heather's remarks still echoed in my ears. I wrote them down, verbatim. Row 2, 10:03 a.m. Scholarship seats, perhaps? I labeled it class-based microaggression. Heather's statement about confirming complimentary upgrades went under discriminatory gatekeeping practices. Across the aisle, Karen was sipping champagne like it was the 1950s. She had no idea that everything she said, everything she implied, was being catalogued by the small boy in seat 2B. Ellie glanced at my notebook. "You're writing about them again, huh?" she whispered. I nodded. "Always." "Why?" "Because they'll never believe us if we don't prove it." She didn't ask what I meant. Ellie never needed me to explain. That was one of the things I loved most about her. I thought back to where it all began. Mom's old office. I was 6. She had shelves stacked with law books, some so big they needed their own supports. I used to crawl under her desk with a flashlight, flipping through legal pads filled with tiny scribbles and court case numbers. Back then, Mom was one of the top litigation lawyers in the state. But something happened. Something big. She never told us the full story, only that the truth didn't matter when the power was on the other side. After that, she quit. She sold her car. We moved. She took jobs that didn't need bar certifications. We started over, but she never stopped teaching me. That's how I knew about CFR Title 14 before I knew how to multiply. That's how I knew the exact language in FAA Section 121.317 and why I could quote Airline Bill of Rights the way other kids recite movie lines. I looked around the cabin. These people thought we were out of place. What they didn't know was I'd read more law than most of them had contracts. I wasn't here to play rich. I was here to keep us safe. The plane had just finished boarding when Heather returned to the cabin with her tray of pre-flight beverages. Her posture was rigid, her smile painted on like it had been applied hours ago. She offered orange juice and sparkling water to the man in 1A, champagne to Karen and her husband, and a sweet, "Can I get you anything else?" to the couple in 2D. Then she reached our row. She paused. Not long, but long enough for me to notice the flicker in her eyes. Heather looked directly at my mom, then down at Ellie, who was fiddling nervously with the strap on her stuffed rabbit. "Water for you," she said flatly, placing 3 small plastic cups on our tray tables. No ice, no lemon, and noticeably smaller than the glasses used for other passengers. "Excuse me," Ellie said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Can I have apple juice, please?" Heather didn't flinch. "We're out." She moved on before anyone could say another word. Mom pressed her lips together. I saw her knuckles tighten around the armrest. She didn't speak. She didn't complain. But I knew what she was thinking. I felt it in the way she exhaled slowly through her nose. I reached for my notebook and began writing. 10:21 a.m. Ellie requests apple juice. Heather responds. "We're out." Observation. Same beverage served to passenger in row 2D 90 seconds earlier. Entry label, Selective Service Disparity. I flipped to a new page. Ellie's eyes were damp, but she said nothing. She just picked up her coloring book and drew a tree, shading in the leaves with little green circles, more focused than usual, like she was trying to draw her way out of the moment. Karen leaned toward her husband, not bothering to lower her voice. "This is why I don't support these charity ticket programs." No sense of decorum. Then louder, as if she wanted us to hear. "Like sitting near a kindergarten field trip." Ellie stopped coloring. Her lip trembled. "Excuse me?" Mom asked quietly. Karen blinked innocently. "Oh, I didn't mean anything personal. It's just noise. Disruptive. Some of us paid full fare for peace." Heather returned, of course, just in time to offer Karen another refill. She didn't even glance at us. Mom remained still, unmoving, silent. But I was writing it all down. Everything. Drip by drip. The plane had reached cruising altitude, and the tension in first class was thick enough to slice with a plastic knife. Ellie was quiet. Too quiet. Her coloring book sat untouched on her tray table, and the little tree she'd drawn now had a rain cloud hovering above it. She looked up at me, then at Mom, and whispered, "My tummy feels funny." "You're okay, sweetheart," Mom murmured. "Just take a deep breath." "I need my giraffe," Ellie said, pointing to her backpack under the seat. "Go ahead," Mom nodded gently. Ellie leaned down, small fingers tugging at the zipper. Her cup of water, already dangerously close to the edge, teetered as her elbow brushed it. And then, as if in slow motion, it tipped. A splash, a gasp, a beat of stunned silence. A few drops landed on Karen's ivory leather pumps. Karen bolted upright, lifting her feet like the water was acid. "Are you kidding me?" she screeched. "These are Valmonts. Do you have any idea what these cost?" Ellie froze. Her face crumpled. I didn't mean to." "Oh, of course you didn't," Karen snapped. "But this is exactly what happens when you let these people into first class." Silence. Absolute, awful silence. Every head turned. Every eye stared. I could hear my own heartbeat. "These kinds of families don't belong here," Karen added, her voice shaking with rage. "This is a premium experience, not a playground for scholarship cases." Heather appeared instantly, as if summoned by venom. "Mrs. Whitmore, what happened?" Karen pointed an accusing, trembling finger at Ellie. "That little brat ruined my shoes." Heather turned to Mom, her tone sharp. "Ma'am, we've had multiple disruptions from your family. Spilled drinks, noise complaints. She's 6, Mom said, her voice low, calm, but trembling. "It was an accident." "Nevertheless," Heather cut in, "I'll be filing a formal report with the captain. If there are any further incidents, your family may be deplaned at our next scheduled stop in Denver." "No," I breathed, barely audible. Ellie had curled into Mom's side, eyes wide and wet, her giraffe crushed in her grip. Her small body was shaking. I stared at Heather, at Karen. I wanted to shout, to scream, but instead, I wrote. 10:47 a.m. Threat of deplaning issued. Grounds. Alleged disruption. Context, child. Incident, minor spill. Response, disproportionate. I didn't cry. Not yet. But something in me cracked. And the fall had begun. I waited until Heather walked back down the aisle, her heels clicking like warning shots. Ellie's head was buried in Mom's lap, and Mom was whispering soft things I couldn't hear. I unzipped the hidden sleeve of my backpack and pulled out Dad's old phone, the one Mom kept charged just in case. I tapped open the secure app Dad used to use and typed fast, fingers trembling only slightly. Me. On Flight 364. Discrimination. Threat of deplaning. Need advice. FAA Reg 121.317 applies. Recipient. Uncle Sam. Civil Rights Legal Network. Uncle Sam wasn't really my uncle. He was an old friend of Mom's. Retired lawyer. Part-time consultant. He'd told me once, "If you ever see something go wrong up there, you call me. I don't care if it's midnight." I hit send and waited. 1 minute, 2, nothing. I refreshed. Still nothing. I sent another message, more urgent this time. Emergency. First class family targeted. Child threatened. Need protocol now. Still no response. Panic started to curl around the edges of my chest. What if I'd gotten the number wrong? What if I was overreacting? What if I wasn't enough? Just then, the phone buzzed. But the message wasn't from Sam. It was from someone I didn't recognize. Victor Hale. "Sam's out this week. I'm covering his inbox. Who is this?" I hesitated, then replied, "Me, Noah, Rachel Pierce's son." A long pause. Then, Victor Hale. Rachel. As in Rachel, who crushed our internal counsel in federal court 8 years ago. My heart thudded. I typed, "Yes." There was another pause. Longer this time. Victor Hale. "I owe your mom a lot. She got me out of a hellhole of a contract when I was still with Sky North. What's happening?" I gave him a fast summary, typed as cleanly as I could. Ellie. The spill. The threats. The tone. The names. Victor Hale. "I used to be CEO of Sky North before the board got skittish. Heather Miller. Still there? Wow. Tell your mom Victor says hello. And tell her I'm already pulling flight data and prepping a statement. Sit tight. I blinked. Victor Hale, former CEO, friend of Mom. Just happened to be covering Sam's inbox. I looked at Mom. She was brushing Ellie's hair back gently, but her eyes were far away, haunted by something old, something that never really left. Maybe this wasn't just about Ellie anymore. Maybe this was about everything. I stared at my justice book, open on my lap, the ink still fresh from the last entry. My fingers rested on the page, but my thoughts were somewhere else. Half in the cabin, half in that courtroom Mom never talks about. Ellie's sniffles had quieted to soft hiccups, her head against Mom's shoulder. Mom looked calm, but I could see the tension in her jaw, the unspoken pain behind her eyes. And Karen? She sat smugly across the aisle, tapping her phone like she hadn't just humiliated a child. Heather was whispering with another flight attendant near the curtain, probably writing us up. My heart pounded, but not from fear. It was something else now. A pull. I stood up. Not suddenly, not angrily, just deliberately. The cabin didn't notice at first. Then someone 2 rows ahead turned, then another. I cleared my throat. "Excuse me," I said, voice steady. Heather turned, frowning. "Sir, please return to your seat." "I'm not causing a disruption," I interrupted, polite but firm. "I'm citing federal regulation." Karen rolled her eyes. "Oh, please." I flipped to the tabbed section marked Airline Law. According to FAA Regulation 121.317, and reinforced by Title 14 of the Code of Federal Regulations, no passenger shall be subjected to differential treatment on the basis of race, color, national origin, religion, sex, or... I looked straight at Karen. Social class. The entire cabin went silent. Even the hum of the engine seemed to dim. I held up my notebook, showing the citation. This flight has documented multiple instances of service disparity, denied beverages, public humiliation, disproportionate punishment toward a child. These are not isolated mistakes. They are patterns. And I've logged each one. Heather took a step forward. "That's quite enough." "No," I said, still respectful. "It's not enough. Because I haven't mentioned yet that I've already contacted legal oversight, including a former executive of this airline." Karen's face paled. "I may be 8 years old," I added, voice calm, "but I know my rights, and I know when they've been violated." Gasps. Someone behind me whispered, "Did he just say 8? A woman in row 3 muttered, "Oh my God!" Karen's mouth opened, but no words came out. I didn't shout, I didn't raise my voice, but I stood. I spoke, and the air around us shifted. For the first time all flight, the power in the room moved. Toward us. The silence following my speech hung in the air like fog. I could feel it. People reevaluating what they'd just seen, who they'd just judged. Karen was frozen in her seat, fingers twitching around the stem of her glass. Heather stepped back, visibly shaken, her notepad hanging limp in her hand. Then, a slow clearing of the throat broke the tension. "Rachel Pierce?" a voice asked from row 3A. We all turned. An older man with a pinstripe blazer and tortoise-shell glasses leaned forward, his eyes locked on my mother. His voice was raspy but carried authority, like a judge who never needed to raise his gavel. Mom blinked. "Excuse me?" He smiled faintly. "It is you. You were lead counsel in Pierce Free Sky North Aviation, weren't you?" The air thinned again. Mom's mouth parted slightly, but she said nothing. The man turned to the cabin. "That case redefined whistleblower protections for aviation employees. The one that cost this airline 4 board members and $30 million in restitution." Karen's face went white. The man leaned back. "I was in the courtroom that day. You were brilliant." My mom didn't acknowledge the compliment. Instead, she looked down at Ellie, still curled beside her, then up at me. And I understood. This wasn't the first time we'd faced this airline, or this woman. Karen shifted in her seat, her composure cracking. "This is outrageous," she spat. They're just playing victim again. The older man interrupted. Actually, Karen, I seem to recall you were among the shareholders who pushed for Rachel's disbarment during that scandal. When the case blew up, your stake was diluted. That must have stung. Karen's lip curled. She destroyed my standing in this company. Mom looked up slowly, voice quiet but sharp. I exposed illegal firings, cover-ups. You lost your standing because you defended the indefensible. I looked between them, Karen's fury, Mom's calm. The dots were connecting faster than I could process. So this wasn't random. This was personal. This wasn't about juice or seats or noise. It was a rematch. Only this time, Mom hadn't come for a fight. She'd come to move on. But injustice has a way of finding you, even at 30,000 feet. And now, the entire cabin knew. Karen wasn't the type to go down quietly. Her composure, already thin, snapped completely. "This is manipulation," she shouted, standing so abruptly her tray clattered to the floor. "This entire show, this child quoting regulations, the sob story, the courtroom nostalgia, it's all performance." Passengers flinched. Heather rushed over, clearly rattled but still clinging to protocol. "Mrs. Whitmore, please lower your voice." Karen jabbed a finger toward me. "I want them removed. Now! File the damn report. Get them off this plane at the next stop." Heather hesitated. "Ma'am, there are procedural requirements. We can't just—" "Then file whatever you have to," Karen snapped. "Passenger misconduct, defamation, unstable behavior. I don't care what you write. I'll call the board myself if I have to." Mom didn't move. Ellie peeked out from under her arm, eyes wide. I stood still, my heart thudding, but I didn't flinch. Then, a soft ping echoed from someone's phone. Another, then another. Across the cabin, heads bowed as screens lit up. A murmur spread, rising like a tide. A woman 2 rows ahead gasped. "Oh my God, is this him?" She turned her phone, showing a video. It was me, standing, speaking, holding up my notebook. "I just saw this on Twitter," she said. "Already has over 70,000 views." A man across the aisle checked his feed. "Reddit's blowing up. Front page." Another voice chimed in. "Had Justice Boy is trending." Karen blinked. What is this?" "Someone must have recorded the whole thing," the man with the phone said. "It's everywhere. The airline's getting torched in the comments." A teenage girl in the back clapped softly. Then another passenger joined in, and then it spread, like fire catching dry brush. Applause. Genuine. Echoing down the aisle. Karen's mouth fell open. Heather stepped back, her face paling. I looked around the cabin, not as a child hoping for approval, but as someone who had spoken, stood, and been heard. One passenger held her phone high, filming again. Another leaned toward Mom and whispered, "Whatever happens next, thank you for raising that." Karen sank slowly into her seat, stunned into silence. Her hands trembled as she reached for her bag, as if trying to disappear behind the very luxury that once shielded her. Heather looked completely lost, because in that moment, control didn't belong to her, or to Karen. It belonged to truth, and the truth had gone viral. The applause hadn't even fully died down when the cabin door at the front opened, and a new figure stepped through, a tall man in full captain's uniform, his face composed but focused. His presence immediately hushed the cabin. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said calmly, "I'm Captain Brooks. I've been informed of an escalating situation in this cabin. I'd like to address it directly." He made his way toward our row, stopping in front of Mom. "Ms. Pierce," he said, voice respectful, "I've just spoken with our corporate office. We've been made aware of the footage circulating and the context surrounding this flight. First, allow me to apologize." Mom nodded cautiously, but said nothing. Captain Brooks turned to Heather, whose lips tightened. "Ms. Miller, please report to the aft cabin. You are reassigned to economy service for the remainder of this flight." Heather blinked, stunned. "Captain, He didn't raise his voice. "Now!" Without another word, Heather turned and walked down the aisle, her rigid posture cracking with every step. Then he faced Karen. "Mrs. Whitmore, due to multiple verified complaints and video evidence of inappropriate conduct, we're reassigning your seat. Our ground team will follow up with you after landing." Karen sputtered. "I'm being punished for—" "Ma'am, this is a courtesy," he said firmly. "Please, gather your things." A flight attendant who hadn't been part of the earlier drama appeared with a sympathetic look and quietly guided Karen and her husband toward the back of the first-class section. Just one row, but symbolically worlds away. The murmurs among passengers returned, now mixed with approving nods. Captain Brooks turned to us again. "We've prepared new accommodations. You'll be more comfortable in row 1. We'd also like to offer your family complimentary sparkling cider and upgraded service for the remainder of the flight." Ellie peeked up, eyes round. "With cherries?" The captain smiled. "With as many cherries as you want." As we moved forward, I felt something shift. Not in the cabin, but in me. I wasn't just trying to survive anymore. We had been seen, acknowledged, protected. Mom sat down, still guarded. "It shouldn't have taken this," she whispered. "I know," I said. "But it happened, and everyone saw." Within minutes, a tray arrived. Flutes of non-alcoholic champagne, snack boxes with real cheese and fruit, and, yes, Ellie's cider with 2 cherries. She beamed. I opened my notebook, flipped to the newest page. 11:28 a.m. Accountability enacted. Public recognition. System response. In motion. The scales had tipped. Not completely, but enough to feel it. The descent into Denver felt surreal. Ellie had fallen asleep against Mom's side, a cherry stem still clinging to her empty glass. The tension that had wrapped around us like a vice had loosened, replaced with a fragile quiet. Passengers glanced our way now with soft smiles, some with admiration, others with something like guilt. My notebook lay open in my lap, pages fluttering as the cabin adjusted to altitude. I had written everything, and now I just waited. As we taxied toward the gate, a voice came over the speaker, not the usual automated landing announcement. "Ladies and gentlemen," Captain Brooks said, "please remain seated upon arrival. There will be representatives from our executive team boarding shortly. We appreciate your cooperation." Passengers exchanged glances. A woman behind us whispered, "They never do this unless something huge happened." Huge didn't begin to cover it. As the seatbelt sign dinged off, the cabin door opened, and 3 people in sleek suits stepped inside. At the front stood a woman with silver-streaked hair and a navy blazer, sharp eyes, calm energy. She walked straight to our row. "Ms. Pierce?" she said. Mom stood slowly, nodding. "I'm Victoria Harrington," the woman said, "Senior Vice President of Customer Experience. On behalf of the airline, I want to personally apologize for everything your family endured today. This incident has already reached the highest levels of our leadership and the public." Behind her, another executive showed his phone screen. The video of my stand had now crossed 2.3 million views. Victoria continued, "Our CEO has authorized me to make this offer immediately. We'd like to appoint you, Ms. Pierce, as a policy advisor on inclusive passenger treatment. Your case years ago reshaped part of our culture. We believe your voice can help us finish what you started." For a moment, my mom said nothing. Her eyes, so often wary, softened, flickered with something I hadn't seen in a long time. Dignity. Not quiet survival, not fear, just dignity. "I'll consider it," she said carefully. "That's all we ask," Victoria replied. One of the other executives knelt to Ellie's eye level as she blinked awake. "You did great today, little one," he smiled. "You were brave." Ellie rubbed her eyes. "Can I go home now?" Laughter rippled gently through the nearby rows. Victoria turned to me. "And you, Noah, I think you just reminded the world that knowing your rights isn't a privilege, it's a necessity." I didn't say anything. I just opened my notebook, found a fresh page, and wrote one line. 11:59 a.m. A door opened. Not in law, in legacy. And somewhere inside me, I felt the scales of justice shift again, this time for real. 3 weeks after the flight, our living room looked more like a newsroom than a home. Stacks of letters poured in, some handwritten, others typed, addressed to me, to Mom, to Justice Boy. I had a stack of them sorted by state. Ellie had her own pile, drawings sent by kids across the country. One showed her holding a giraffe, standing on a courtroom table. She'd taped it above her bed. The airline moved quickly. Their press release hit headlines within 48 hours. New equity training protocols, revised passenger rights policies, and a newly launched scholarship fund, the Horizon Initiative, aimed at supporting underprivileged students pursuing careers in aviation and law. They even asked me to name it. But I didn't stop there. With help from a small publishing house and a few stunned adults who couldn't believe an 8-year-old had legal citations memorized, I wrote a book, Know Your Rights, a kid's guide to fairness in the sky. It was simple, direct, and filled with examples from my justice book. Ellie insisted on illustrating every page. Her drawings weren't perfect. Some airplanes were lopsided, and her people had big heads, but they had heart, and that mattered more. Mom handled all the contracts. She was careful, steady, but I saw the fire returning to her. She didn't just want justice anymore. She wanted to build something better. One night, as we ate frozen pizza in our pajamas, the news flashed across the TV screen. Breaking. Karen Whitmore removed from airline's board following internal investigation. The report detailed patterned elitist behavior, past incidents covered up by influence, and a loss of public trust fueled by her viral outburst. I looked at Mom. She didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She just exhaled slowly and turned the volume down. "It's not revenge," she said. "It's accountability." Ellie didn't quite understand. "Is she going to jail?" "No, baby," Mom said gently. "She just doesn't get to make rules for others anymore." I added a new page to my notebook. Accountability log. Entry number 37. Power removed without shouting. Only truth. The emails kept coming. Schools asking if I'd speak to their students. Civil rights groups offering to partner. Even one from a senator's office, asking if I'd be open to meeting. I was only 8, but the world had already decided I was old enough to matter. And now, I had something more than just rights. I had a voice. 1 year later, I found myself back in seat 2B. Different flight, different city, but the same quiet hum of first class. The windows framed a soft pink sunrise, and Ellie sat beside me, headphones on, doodling whales in the margins of a magazine. Mom was across the aisle, reading a policy draft for her next advisory session. She'd found her way back into the world she once walked away from, but this time, on her terms. I stared at the seat ahead, tracing the stitched airline logo on the headrest. So much had changed since that day. Media interviews, speaking at schools, our book climbing the bestseller list in children's nonfiction. But in many ways, I still felt like that same kid with a notebook in his backpack, just trying to protect his little sister. As I sipped apple juice with 2 cherries, standard now on every flight, I noticed movement across the aisle. A little girl, maybe 6 or 7, was curled up beside her mom, reading a book with crayon-colored tabs peeking out from the edges. I leaned slightly to see the cover. Know Your Rights, A Kid's Guide to Fairness in the Sky. My book. Her tiny finger moved across each word, lips silently mouthing the sentences. Her eyes were wide, thoughtful. Every few pages she stopped and asked her mom a question. Her mom smiled, nodded, pointed gently to a line in the text. I blinked, surprised at the tightness in my throat. Digging into my backpack, I pulled out a blank page from my original justice book, the same one that had started it all. I tore the sheet carefully, smoothed it on my tray, and began to write in my neatest print. You don't need money to matter. You don't need fancy shoes or a famous name. You just need to know what's right and believe that you deserve it. You already have power. You just have to learn how to use it. Noah. I folded the note and waited until she got up to use the bathroom. When her seat was empty, I leaned over, tucked the page gently into the back cover of her book, and sat back down. Ellie looked at me and smiled without asking why. As the plane began its descent, I watched the world grow closer through the window. Cities turned into neighborhoods. Clouds gave way to skylines. Mom reached over and squeezed my hand. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I nodded. "Just thinking." "About what?" "How something small," I said, glancing at the girl as she returned to her seat, "can end up flying pretty far. Because sometimes the quietest victories aren't shouted. They're passed along, folded between pages, whispered between seats, carried on like wind at 30,000 feet.